Hi guys, it's Angela from Bear Sew Knits, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make these adorable little bunny booties for a 3 to 6 month old baby. In this tutorial I'm going to be using US terminology, and if you miss anything do check the pinned comment below for the timestamps. If you want to follow along with the written pattern and get access to 4 other sizes, you can find that in my Etsy store, and the link is in the description box below. If you enjoy the video, do consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to see any of my future uploads. And if you have any questions, do comment down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Let's get started. Let's start with the materials you're going to need. You're going to need a 2.5mm crochet hook. For my American friends, that's a size C. You're also going to need 100% cotton DK yarn. I'm using the Rikorumi brand, which comes in balls of 25 grams each. The first colour that you're going to need is going to be the colour that's making up the majority of your booty. So the one that I'm making today, I'm using 2 balls of light blue, and that is shade 33. We are then going to need a contrasting colour, and you only need 1 ball of this. For these ones that I'm making today, it is a dark blue that I'll be using, and this is for the sole of the booty, and it just gives it a nice colour pop underneath to have a contrasting colour. You're going to need a ball of white yarn to make the lace cuffs, and then the other 2 colours you can just use yarn scraps. So you're going to need some black and some light pink for the eye and the nose details, and I'm using shades 60 and 8, again from Rikorumi. Here on the screen you can also see the shades that I used for the original colour scheme if you would prefer to go for a more traditional bunny look. Optionally, you can also use some Lame DK yarn for the outside. On the original booties I used gold, but for these today I'm going to be using silver. You will need a little bit of soft toy filling or potentially yarn scraps to stuff the cottontail once it has been made. You are also going to need some other tools, so scissors, a yarn needle and a stitch marker, and optionally you can also use some pink blush to add colour to the inside of the ears, as I have done. Blocking is an essential step in guaranteeing the appearance and the longevity of your booties. You're going to need a flat piece of scrap cardboard or even a piece of plastic, a marker, a bowl, a towel, some kitchen towels, and some no rinse wool wash. I'm using the Knit IQ brand that I got from Amazon. Make sure to check out the description box below for links to the materials that I used, and let's get cracking. For the base of the booties, I'm going to be using my 2.5mm crochet hook, and I'm going to be crocheting in continuous rounds around a foundation row of stitches. I'm using my contrasting colour here. Let's get started. First, I'm going to chain 16 stitches. Now, starting in the second stitch, I'm going to single crochet 14 stitches back along the chain. Now I'm going to single crochet 3 in that final stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to be working back along this foundation row of stitches. So first I'm going to single crochet 13 back along this side. Now I'm going to single crochet 2 into this original first chain. So I'm left with 3 in that chain. Then I'm going to place my marker. For the next row, I'm going to start by increasing in the first stitch. So increase means single crochet 2 in the same stitch. 1, 2. I'm now going to single crochet 13 along this first side. That was my single crochet 13. Now in these 3 single crochets that I did in this end stitch, I'm going to increase, so single crochet 2 into each of those 3 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to single crochet 13 back along the other side. In my final 2 stitches, I'm going to increase in both of the stitches. So single crochet 2 in each of these last 2 stitches. For the next row, again, we are going to increase. So single crochet 2 in that first stitch. Then I'm going to single crochet 8 stitches. I'm now going to half double crochet 2 stitches. Okay, so wrap around, in, and through all 3. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that 3 times. Around, in, through all 3. Final one. I'm now going to double crochet 3 stitches. So I'll wrap around and through twice. So my second double crochet and my third double crochet. Now I have reached my 6 stitches at this end. That's where the result of my increase in the last round. So in each of these 6 stitches, I'm going to double crochet twice in each stitch. So 1 and second one in the same stitch. Two and a second one in the same stitch. And I'm going to repeat that again 4 more times. Now going back along this side, I'm going to do the opposite of what I did before. So this time I'm going to double crochet 3. I'm going to half double crochet 3. I'm going to single crochet 7 this time rather than 8. So I've single crocheted 7. Now I'm going to increase in the next stitch. So single crochet 2. I'm going to do a normal single crochet in the next stitch. And then I'm going to increase in the final 2 stitches. For the next row, I'm going to single crochet 1 in the first stitch. I'm going to increase in the next stitch. So 1, 2 single crochets in the same stitch. I'm then going to single crochet 8. I'm going to half double crochet 3 again, just like on the previous row. Now I'm going to double crochet 6 in the next 6 stitches. Now I'm going to, just like on the previous row, do 6 double crochet increases. So in each of the next 6 stitches I'm going to double crochet 2. 1, 2, Then in my next stitch, 1, 2, then I'm going to repeat that 4 more times. Okay, so now that I've completed that, I'm going to double crochet 6 again along the other side. Now I'm going to half double crochet 3. Now I'm going to single crochet 8 back along this side. I'm going to increase in the next stitch, so single crochet twice, 1, 2. I'm then going to single crochet 1 in the next stitch, and then in these last 3 stitches I'm going to increase. In my final stitch I'm going to SC1. To start off this row, I am going to increase into the first stitch, and I'm going to single crochet 10, I'm going to half double crochet 3 as on each of the previous 2 rounds. I'm then going to double crochet 9. And in each of the next 6 stitches, just like on the previous 2 rounds, I'm going to double crochet 2 into each of them. So 1, 2, and in the next stitch, 1, 2, and I'm going to repeat that another 4 times. Now I'm going to double crochet 9 back along this side. Now I'm going to half double crochet 3. Now I'm going to single crochet 9 back along this side. I'm going to increase in this next stitch. So 1, 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And then I'm going to single crochet 8 along this back part. Now for this final row, I'm just going to work around the edge, mostly in single crochet. For the first stitch, I'm going to single crochet 1, and I'm going to increase 1, so single crochet twice. Then I'm going to single crochet the next 65 stitches all the way around. And I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of that round so that I can snip my end, and I'm going to pull through, and there I have my base. Now as we can see, it puckers slightly, that's normal, and now we are going to complete our first step of the blocking process, which is going to help to make this lie flat once completed. I have my scrap cardboard and I have my booty base, and I'm just going to, with my marker, draw around roughly. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can see my rough outline of my base there. I think I'm going to need some bigger scissors for this. So I'm now just going to cut around the outline. I'm actually going to cut slightly within the line. As you can see, I've just cut the cardboard slightly smaller than the base itself. That's so that it can fit easily into the shoe once it has been made and assembled, and hold it in place for blocking. Starting on the upper part of our bootie, you can see this is the stitch that I slip stitched into at the end of the base. Now I'm going to attach my yarn here by going into the back of this stitch. I'm just going to attach my yarn there, and I'm going to chain 3. Now that is going to count as my first double crochet. I'm now going to work in rounds using double crochet, and instead of doing just a normal double crochet into this stitch, I'm actually going to do a back post double crochet. I'm going to wrap my yarn around. I'm going to go underneath this next stitch from the back, so now you can see it's coming through to the front. I'm going to go through to the next stitch like this, so you can see it's now through the back. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull it through, and then I'm going to finish it like a normal double crochet. Okay, so let's try that again. I'm going to wrap my yarn round. I'm going to go into this stitch here, next stitch, from back to front. I'm going to go through from front to back, and I'm going to pull my yarn through there, and then I'm going to finish it like a normal double crochet. One last time, I'm going to go round into the next stitch, from the back to the front, to grab my yarn and pull it through, and then I'm going to finish like a normal double crochet. I'm now going to do the same thing all the way around, so every stitch around until I get back to the beginning. In the end, I will have 68 stitches, including my chain 3 at the beginning. Now I've done my 68 back post double crochets, and I'm just going to join in the top of this stitch here with a slip stitch. For the next row, I'm going to chain 3 to start with. Counts as my first double crochet. I'm then going to double crochet into the top of every stitch in the round until I have 68 stitches, and I'm back at the start again. And now I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 3. And I'm going to repeat that row one more time. So I'm going to chain 3 and then double crochet all the way around, and then slip stitch back into the top of the chain 3. For the 4th round, I'm going to start by chaining 2, because my first stitches are going to be worked half double crochet. So rather than chain 3, I'm just going to chain 2 for this one. I'm now going to half double crochet 17 stitches. So including my chain 2 at the start, that will be 18 stitches. I'm now going to double crochet 2 together. So I'm going to wrap my hook around. I'm going to go into the front of the first stitch, front only, pull it through, wrap my yarn around through the first 2 stitches. So I now have 2 on my hook. I'm going to leave them there. Yarn around again into the front of the second stitch, pull my yarn through, yarn round through the first 2 stitches. Now I have 3 on my hook, and I'm going to pull through all 3 stitches at once. Okay, so that was my double crochet 2 together. I'm going to repeat that another 13 times, so 14 times in total. I'm now going to half double crochet 22 stitches. And then I'm just going to slip stitch in the top of this chain 2 to join. For the 5th row, I'm going to chain 2 to start again. I'm going to half double crochet 17, same as on the previous row. I'm now going to double crochet 2 together 7 times, so around into the front of the first stitch, yarn through, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn round into the front of the next stitch, yarn through the first 2 loops, and then through all 3. I'm going to repeat that 6 more times. I'm now going to half double crochet 22 stitches, just like on the previous round. Now I'm going to slip stitch in the top of these chain 2. To start the 6th row, I'm going to chain 2, which counts as my first half double crochet. I'm then going to half double crochet 14 stitches. I'm now going to double crochet 2 together 7 times, just like on the previous row. I'm now going to half double crochet 18. So now I've done my half double crochet 18, I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 2 here. Tight. Okay, so we can see that our booty has taken shape with those decreases. On to round 7. Now I'm going to chain 2, and now I'm going to half double crochet 39 stitches all the way around. Now I'm just going to slip stitch into that final stitch, and that is my 7th row done. I'm now going to repeat that same row, so chain 2, 39 half double crochet all the way around, and then slip stitch in the top of my chain 2 again 5 more times. So I'm going to have 6 rows of cuff in total. There we have it. I finished my 6 rows, and now I'm going to snip my yarn tail, and I'm going to pull it through, and now I'm going to show you how to start the lace cuff. I'm going to attach my white yarn at the back of the booty somewhere. I'm doing this so I'm holding the booty and I'm attaching it from the inside of the booty out. Make sure you're holding it the right way to start with. I'm going to attach my yarn in the back loop of one of the stitches. I'm now going to chain 2, and that's going to count as my first half double crochet. I'm then going to half double crochet 39 stitches in the back loops only, all the way around. And now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 2. That's my first row done. For this next row I'm going to do the exact same, except instead of half double crochet in the back loops, I'm going to just do a half double crochet. So I'm going to start with a chain 2. I'm going to half double crochet 39 stitches around. And I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 2. It's my second row of the cuff done. To start the final row of the cuff, I'm going to start by chaining 4. I'm going to skip the first stitch, this one here, and I'm going to SC in the next stitch. I'm then going to chain 4 again, skip the next stitch, and SC in the following stitch. I'm going to repeat that 17 more times until I have 19 of these little lace shells around the edge. You can see I've got kind of like a little gap here. I'm just going to slip stitch back into that first stitch again. There we go. I'm now going to snip my end and pull that through. And there we have my little lace cuff. Before I move on, I'm just going to quickly use my yarn needle to sew in the ends. All ready to move on to the next stage. To start the ears, we first need to form a magic circle. There are different ways to do this. I'm just going to form a loop, use my hook to grab the yarn, pull it through, and do one, chain 1. For the first round of the ears, we are going to single crochet 6 into the magic ring. I'm then going to pull that closed. For the next row, I'm going to increase, so single crochet 2 into each of those 6 stitches. I'm now going to place my marker. For the next row, I'm going to single crochet 3, and then I'm going to increase 1, 2 in the same stitch, and I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. Now for rows 4 to 8, I'm going to complete 5 rows of single crochet. So I'm going to single crochet in all 15 stitches around. For row 9, I'm going to single crochet 3, and now I'm going to decrease 1. Now to decrease in amigurumi and make sure that it's an invisible decrease, we just go through the front of the next 2 stitches, pull through, and then SC them 2 together. And I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. and I'm once again left with 12 stitches. For rows 10 to 13, I'm now going to do 4 rows of single crochet 12 stitches, so in every stitch around. I'm just going to cut this tail so that it can be hidden inside the ear. So I'm holding it flat and I'm going to go through this first stitch and I'm going to go through the opposite stitch at the other side. So now you can see my crochet hook goes through both stitches. And I'm just going to single crochet those 2 stitches together. And I'm going to do the same all the way along. I'm going to snip my end and I'm going to fasten off. So that's my first ear done, and I'm going to repeat the process one more time so that I have 2 ears. This next step is optional, but as I said, you can choose to use a little bit of blush and just apply it to the center of the ear, so that when it's held together you get that nice bit of color in the middle. I'm going to repeat that for the second ear. I'm now going to use my yarn needle to sew up the bottom of the ears. So I'm going to hold the ear closed and I'm just going to sew through this bottom end here. Okay, so that's brought together the bottom of my ear, ready to be sewn onto the bootie. Now onto the cottontail. To start the cottontail, we are once again going to be using our white yarn, and I'm going to start again with a magic circle. So I'm going to make a loop, my hook through and grab the yarn, and then I'm going to chain 1 to secure it, and I'm going to single crochet 4 into my magic circle this time. I'm going to pull it closed. For the next row I am going to increase, so single crochet 2 into each of these 4 stitches. At this point you can add a marker if you want. I'm not going to, just because there are so few rows. I'm now going to single crochet in the first stitch of round 3, and I'm going to increase in the next one, and I'm going to repeat that 3 more times. For my next row I'm going to single crochet 12, so in every stitch around. I'm now going to single crochet 1 and then invisible decrease 1, so going into the front of the next 2 stitches and single crocheting them together. And I'm going to repeat that 3 more times. To fill the cottontail, I'm first of all going to snip this yarn so that it can be hidden inside the tail. I'm then going to use a small amount of soft toy filling and stuff the tail. As I said at the beginning, you can use yarn scraps instead. To finish it off, I'm just going to decrease 4 times so that I go from 8 stitches to 4. I'm going to decrease in the first 2 stitches, and I'm going to repeat that 3 more times. And I'm just going to snip my yarn tail and I'm going to pull that through, and there's my little cottontail. This first step of the assembly is optional. This is where we're going to crochet with our lame around the edge. Feel free to skip this step if you don't want to include it. We're going to take our 2.5mm crochet hook as before, and we're going to attach our lame at the back of the bootie somewhere. We are then going to use single crochet all the way around the edge. And I'm just going to slip stitch back into that first stitch again. I'm going to snip my end and I'm going to pull my yarn through. I'm then going to weave in my ends. So the first thing I'm going to attach to the bootie is the ears. You can use pins to hold them in place as you sew them if you wish. I'm not going to, but if it makes it easier, go right ahead. So I'm going to sew my ear on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth row of the bootie at one side. And I'm going to sew my other ear to the opposite side of the bootie. So now I've sewn on my bunny ears on the front. You can put them closer together if you want, further apart, it's up to you. I'm now going to sew on my cottontail, and I'm going to go into the center of the back of the bootie, covering around 1, 2, 3 of the upper part. So I'm going to go in here to start with, and I'm just going to secure in place like that. And there's my cottontail attached. And finally I'm going to work on the face. To sew my face details, I'm going to need my bit of scrap pink yarn and my bit of scrap black yarn. I'm going to start with the nose, so I'm just going to thread my pink yarn. I'm going to put a small knot in the end. And I'm going to bring my yarn up inside the bootie between the first and the second row of the upper part in the middle. So here is my middle, and I'm going to come up through there with my yarn. And I'm then going to bring my pink yarn up to the top of row 2, 5 stitches wide. So this is my middle one. So I'm going to start here and bring it back down to my starting point. I'm then just going to fill in some of these gaps. So now I've got a nice full looking nose. I'm now going to come back up to the top, and I'm going to go under the stitches for the nose. And then I'm going to go over top of the stitches back to the one I just came from. And that gives me my cute neat little nose with the strands hidden at the top. And I'm just going to go ahead and weave in this yarn end. To sew the eye details, I'm only going to need 2 strands. So I'm just going to pull out the strands until I can see that I just have 2. And I'm going to separate them. To sew the eye details, I'm going to bring my black yarn up through to the bottom of row 4, so where round 4 starts on the upper part, in line with the top of the nose. I'm then going to go up the top of row 4, or almost to the top of row 4. I'm going to bring my needle up 2 or 3 stitches later, and then going to come back and join that bit here. And I'm just going to bring it back down to between rounds 3 and 4. I'm then going to repeat on the other side. I'm now going to sew in my end. Now that I've finished the first bootie, I'm going to follow the steps in exactly the same way to make the second one. Now let's move on to blocking. So to block my booties, I'm just going to put a bit of my wool wash into the bowl, and I'm just going to mix that around a bit. I'm then going to submerge my booties in the water. You don't need to agitate it with this wool wash, which is why it's so good. So I'm just going to submerge it in there and then leave it for 15 minutes. Make sure you follow the instructions on your specific wool wash. Now 15 minutes has passed, and I'm going to remove my booties from the water. If you're not using a no rinse wool wash, you may need to rinse your booties very gently with clean water. And now I'm gently going to squeeze out as much water as possible. There's no need to wring them dry, just apply pressure and dry out as much of the moisture as you can. They look a bit sad now after this step, but we are going to fix that in a moment. Once you've squeezed out as much water as possible, you're then going to insert your foot templates. This isn't the easiest of steps, but do persevere and it will slide in eventually. Okay, and just make sure that the foot template is sitting completely on the bottom of your bootie, so that it's laid flat like this. Now that my templates are in, the next step is going to be to rip up bits of kitchen towel and to stuff them into the bootie. This is your chance to mould your bootie as you go, so that it looks exactly the way that you want it to. Okay, once it dries, it will almost dry into that shape, so it's an important step to get right. I'm now going to do the exact same to the other one. So I'm just going to check that the booties sit the way I want them to sit and that there are no lumps or bumps. And the last step is that I'm going to check that my ears are set as I want them to. So there are my booties ready to dry out. I'm going to leave them in a warm space for about 24 hours so that they can dry out completely. Here we are 24 hours later and the booties are now dry. I've already removed most of the stuffing in there and I'm just going to remove the last bits and we'll see the final result. And there we have it, our completed bunny booties. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell, it really does support me. Remember, you can find this pattern alongside 4 other sizes in my Etsy store. Find the link down in the description box. See you in the next one!